listening to Who's Tom and Dick, a weekly podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers, fighting stage 4 lung cancer, and Patrick Mortimer, living with heart disease. Why not grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy the chatter as we discuss and share information, talking about tough subjects, and offering help, support, and motivation with a positive mental attitude.
Well, good morning, Patrick. How are you? Another lovely day?
Good morning to you, sir. Nice to see you.
Yeah, the sun is shining. It makes you feel good to be alive.
This is a bit sort of getting a bit regular, this sunlark now, isn't it?
I know. Every introduction, we seem to be saying what a lovely day. But anyway, we've got an interesting subject to talk about today, haven't we?
Good morning to all our listeners on Who's Tom and Dick this morning. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And today we've got another exciting guest. His name is Terry Hill, and he goes by the name of Donny Knight on his famous TikTok site, and he's got over 100,000 followers.
Wow, that is a lot.
And I'd like to ask Martin to tell us what his symptoms are.
And when I tell you what the symptoms are, you'll realise why Patrick's asked me to do it. So Donny suffers from aortobicameral bypass. Well, that's what he had. An aortobicameral bypass. And Donny will tell us all about this. So, welcome, Donny. Thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Good morning, Donny. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing as well as I can be.
Good.
So, you're going to tell us all about the operation you had and how you felt beforehand, and it's your story, really. So,
yeah, well, the beginning was probably 2.5 to 3 years ago. Basically, I've always liked travelling, like you all know, and I were in Lanzarote with my family before I was doing TikToks, and I was walking up an hill back to his hotel from the front in Lanzarote, and I felt pains in my legs. I stopped a minute, I said to Mrs., I don't feel good here, my legs are hurting. I carried on, and through that holiday, it started happening quite a lot. When I walked, like, say, if I were walking half a mile, quarter a mile, I would gain pains in my legs. So this happened, like you say, it were happening over 2 years. So I went to my local GP. I told him what were happening with my legs. And he tried saying it was my back that was the problem, because years and years ago, I used to work at Op Point before I come a roofer as an engineer, and we were lifting washers, cookers, things like that, and I had a lot of back problems. So because on the records at the doctors, that's the last time I went, and it was years before, because I never bother them. I've always been fit, I've been healthy. Eventually, I think I had 3 or 4 different scans. I had a scan where they put the dye through your body. And eventually they picked up that I had blockages in my arteries, in my groin, just below my stomach, in my groin. And they said, what we're going to have to do, Miss Still, and this were over a 2-year period, we're going to have to put some stents in there. We think we're going to have to put one at one side because that's blocked, and the other side is diseased. If not, it might be a bypass round them. June last year, I got a phone call from the hospital saying, right, we'd like to come in on this date in June. And I went in. I were absolutely crapping myself. I don't like hospital. I'm terrified. Before I went to the hospital, I were at the stage I could not walk 10 metres. I were in severe pain. So I went in, had the operation. While I'm there, they didn't put me to sleep, so I were a nervous wreck. They had to end up giving me gas and air because I was panicking and everything. And when I come out, the consultant, the surgeon, and one of his helpers come into the corridor. I was laid down flat. One had to have fingers on one side and one on the other side, so it healed a little bit. And then they said, Terry, we're very sorry, but we've had to put 7 stents in. You don't have to have a bypass, and the operation is done. So this was the start of it last June. Obviously, by then, I was travelling all around the world doing my TikToks, vlogging. That's what my content were all about. And I was growing rapidly from 10 followers, and I'm over 100,000 now. Within 2 weeks of the operation, I was in Egypt climbing the pyramid. I felt on top of the world. I was still getting bits of pains in my legs, but I'd say I was a good 80% fit in my body. I just travelled all last year. So this is where it all started going wrong. So we got to Christmas and it was beginning of January and we got that 1 or 2 days of snow. So I thought, right, I'm going to spend a bit of family time. Let's go and play in snow, all family. I walked outside. It was absolutely freezing and I felt pains in my legs. I'm like, shit, this isn't right. Different pains to what I was feeling where I were 80% fit.
Yeah.
So we live at bottom of an hill. So I walked up this hill and I was like limping, walking up. And I got home and by then both my legs were totally freezing from my waist down to my feet. I was shaking and radiators were on full. Took my socks off and I put them on the radiators and I could not feel no heat. I rung my doctor's surgery a few days after. They felt the pulse in my feet and they said, we can't get a pulse in your feet. You've got to get to A&E as soon as possible. So I went to the hospital. 2 consultants come in that did the stents in my body. So I'm like, this is serious. The 2 consultants come in the room. They talked about what had happened to me previously. They got me laid on a bed. They felt my legs and they said, we've got bad news, Terry. And I'm like, what? They said, there is no pulse in one of your feet, my left foot, and your other one is very, very slight pulse. We might have to take your foot off tonight. Well, I looked at my missus and his face dropped to the floor. I'm like, no way. My life's over, knowing what I've been through, what I'm doing, roofing, TikToks, everything was going perfect. This one day changed my life. So he said, but before we make a decision, we're going to send you for a scan. We'll dye through your body like I've had before, and then we'll make a decision. So off I went to have this scan done. Me and my missus yapping away. We're like, can't have my foot off. No way. I'm not going to let them, So I had a scan. And don't forget, it took me 2 years to get the stents in, seeing consultants, having scans, finding out what up with me. This all happened in one day, from seeing the consultants, going from a scan, diagnosing what were up with. This all happened on that one afternoon at the hospital. The same 2 consultants come back. They said, sit down, Terry. We've got good news and bad news for you. I'm like, can't be any worse than having your foot off. Anyway, they said, right, the good news is we're going to be saving your foot. You're not going to have your foot off. So my heart was like, oh, thank God for that.
Yeah.
They said the bad news is with no other option, there's nothing left we can do unless we give you a vascular bypass. This bypass is the last resort, what they could do for me. And they said, if you don't have it done, you're going to die. Basically, all your stents, all your arteries around your groin area, everything is blocked up. So I said to the consultant, how can everything block up? He said, well, this is what's happened to your body. This is your only option left. It's going to be aorto bimoral bypass surgery. So they were putting new arteries from just below my heart into the main veins at the top of my legs. Mm-hmm. So he said, this comes with a lot of complications. And if everything goes all right, 90% you'll make a recovery. There's always possibilities of things going wrong. Anyway, everything up to 40%, you're going to die. And they told me, they didn't hang about in telling me. They told me straight what they were doing and what chances was survival of the operation.
Yeah.
So they said, we want this happening in the next 2 weeks. So that's where I'm up to going to the operation.
Did they say what caused this?
Yes. They told me point blank, smoking.
Really?
I've always been honest and truthful about me smoking. Sometimes I've I'll tell them I'm on 10 a day, but I'm on 20, like you do.
Yeah.
But I did smoke, and I were honest, I smoked. And they blamed it straight away on smoking. They said, you have got to stop smoking. Now, this was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do. I've smoked all my life, around about 20 a day, especially when I'm under pressure, if I'm up on a roof and I'm rushing to get a job done. I don't drink, and I hadn't drunk for about 15 years. No reason for it. Now, one thing they have never mentioned is my diet. Now, I have tablets for cholesterol. I'm on so many tablets. I'm on about 7 or 8 different tablets now. Right, so the day come, it was 30th of January, 3 weeks after seeing my doctors. I couldn't believe I were absolutely crapping myself. You imagine. I had to be there at 7 a.m. in the morning, nervous wreck. I checked in and they said, right, Miss Hill, just go in that room, but nobody can come with you. So we looked at each other, me and Mrs. I'm like, is this going to be the last time I see her? Is everything going to go? I've never had an operation, not one where I've been sedated asleep. The operation took 5 hours. And off I went. I'm ringing Mrs. God, why can't you be here? And she's same. And my little boy even come with us. So I were in there roughly about an hour. I can't explain how nervous and frightened I was. All I kept thinking, I'm going to be asleep. I'm not going to know what's happened, and I've got to just get over when I come round, what's up with me, and deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm quite a tough person. I'm thick-skinned. I'm very tough, but I'm still a human being where I was nervous, and I was nervous.
Yeah.
So it got to the stage, I got in a wheelchair. They wheeled me round to this room it wasn't the surgery room. It was like a medical room where the anaesthetist comes. And there were so many people in that room. It was overwhelming. There was that much happening. And the anaesthetist come in and he says, right, we're going to sit you on the edge of this bed. I had to put a pillar on my legs and bend down so the anaesthetist could put the epidural in my back. The anaesthetist who I saw, he had a junior with it. He says, right, I'm going to talk my trainee or whatever. I'm going to talk him, just keep crouched down, don't move, be as still as you can, and you're not going to feel anything. It's just going to, the massive needle, he didn't show me needle, I'll have collapse because I've got a phobia on needles, hospitals, dentists, you name it. Apparently, he tried going in and he didn't hit the right spot, because what I remember him saying, right, just pull it out a bit and go back in, and that's what happened. Within seconds, I woke up after the operation. I were out of it. So as that went in, I were out of it. Didn't know until I woke up in intensive care 5 hours later. When I did come round in the intensive care, this is my worst part of my journey, and I'll never forget for the rest of my life. It had me in tears. I was upset. I thought I was going to die. All sorts were going through my mind. Obviously, I was drugged up. But when I come round, I'm there, I'm on drips, doctors round me. I'm like, what the is happening here, And as soon as I could speak words, the first thing come out my mouth, did everything go all right? They said, everything's all right, Mr. Hill, you're going to be feeling pain here, but you're not going to have pain around the area because the epidural lasts for 4 days. So you won't feel pain until you're ready to start recovering without the epidural. I said, I've still got pains in my legs. They feel numb. So they got the anaesthetist round and they shuffled me to end at bed, and I'm in severe pain. And the anaesthetist moved the epidural. As soon as he lifted it up 5 mil, all my legs and body below my waist downwards were all numb.
Wow.
So they left. I felt a lot better, but within half an hour, the pains come back in my legs down one side. From that day, my legs are still numb and I've still got pains in them legs. It's nothing to do with my blocked arteries, but I believe that when they did that epidural, they've damaged my nerve.
Right.
Mm.
But I seriously believe that epidural either wasn't put in properly or they hit a nerve when they went in. I don't know how to explain it. All I know, from my knee up to my waist, both legs are numb, but one leg is worse than the other. People say to me, how can you be in pain if you're numb?
Yeah.
But I am. It isn't the full leg that's numb.
Yeah.
It's the front of my legs, but that pain is the same pain from when I left that hospital and when I woke up from the operation.
What have they said about this then? What's the hospital said about it?
They're saying the operation's a success and it's part of your recovery. Your recovery could take anything from 3 months to 2 years, and then you still might have bits up with you. The last consultant I saw didn't seem bothered because their part of it has been a success. They said they're going to put notes on the system for me to go and see a nerve specialist. This hasn't happened, but the following day I got an email saying we want you to come back to see the consultant again at the vascular team. And I'm like, what on earth good? They've already told me there's no else they can do. I want to see a nerve specialist. It feels I'm constantly back and forward and I'm not a brilliant health.
Do you find that they're not committing themselves to saying what it really is at the moment?
100%. They will never admit that they're at fault. I know that. But I want people to be aware this is a possibility it could happen to other people. There were plenty of staff there, but I believe a lot of the staff are from bank. If people want to pick up extra shifts, they go through a bank. And what this bank does is they can give them shifts. So, for example, bank holidays, weekends, all things like that, where the normal hospital staff don't want to work, is filled in. So through the day, there are your normal consultants, nurses, doctors coming to see you, making sure everything all right, making sure you had enough pain relief. I were in there roughly 5 days. I was roughly in hospital in total 9 days. So my first 2 days, I was really out of it. But when I slowly started coming round and felt the pains that were going through my body is probably when I needed help. They put this, a guy, he had a white uniform on. I didn't get his name. So we come in, he did your normal meds where they check your pulses and temperature and they take your blood. Every hour, this guy was taking my blood. Only when the nurses or the consultants of higher authority were coming round, he started taking me blood. One of the nurses, the head nurses, picked up on this and they said, why are you taking his blood all the time? So me, because I'm sedated and that a bit, I'm like, are you selling my blood? And I didn't think anything of it because don't forget, I've never been in intensive care. I thought it were routine. This nurse said, you don't take his blood every hour. And they looked at each other. She looked shocked with him. He didn't know what to do. I feel that is all he knew what to do. And he was doing it to make himself look busy when the big wigs were there coming to see me. And he would like making out he were doing something good. But he was doing it every time. I'm like, what on earth is happening here? I'm in intensive care, the most secure place in hospital. And I've got a guy here taking me blood. I don't know if it were for vampires or what, but he was taking a lot of it. But I didn't know any different. It was just happening. This part of my story is probably the worst part. I get upset about it. It brought me to tears. I was crying. I thought I was going to die. I didn't want to be in there. I was terrified. I'm going to get into it, and it's about the night shift in intensive care. One of the days I wanted to go to the toilet, so I had a catheter in for a wee, but if I wanted to have a poo, they had to lift me up and put me on a chair. I was shouting, I need toilet. You're supposed to have a buzzer in your room. I didn't have a buzzer. So I'm shouting. No one come. It was too late. It'd all come out in my bed. I was laid in it. Eventually, after God knows how long, someone come in, took about an hour to an hour and a half to come to change me. So the next day, same again, it come to the night shift. The day shift was brilliant. I'd moved into my ward, meeting other guys. One guy next to me, he'd had his leg off and he'd had sepsis, and another guy, another problem. Anyway, cut a long story short, I was in there 5 days, and the surgeon, consultant, doctor come round it one morning, looked at me, he grabbed me plaster and just ripped it off. That was my first sight of my staples that were in my body. And he looked at them, he went, they look all right, you can go home today.
Wow.
Just like that. Wow. I wasn't ready for it. Anyway, got in a wheelchair, Mrs. picked me up at tea time that day, and I went home. I got no help at all. I was pushed out in a wheelchair by my missus to the car. To the day I am still here with severe pains in my legs. So then I noticed my bowels there was something wrong. Noticed my legs were still numb and in pain. I went to my doctors. They said, oh, it's all part of recovery. A month went back again. They said, right, we're going to send you for a MRI scan. They treated me brilliant. I were in and out. Didn't want to keep me in hospital. Sent me home. The day after, the doctor rang me and said, your MR scan's right, but they didn't cover all the nerve parts. Orthopedic only deals with your bones and your spine. So you'll have to wait for your vascular consultant to put you through to the nerve specialist team. So now I've been seeing my doctor, and she said same, thinks it's the epidural. They've put me on stronger painkillers because all along my pain relief had run out. So for over a month I've had no painkillers, and they won't give them me until they know what's happening if it's nerves, because the different pain relief. So now I'm on amitriptyline for that, only a small dose. And she said she'll ring me in 2 weeks to see if they can up it. I do sleep well at night, but the pain's still there. And that is my medical story from the start of it up to where I am right this minute.
Which is still going on now and will carry on for a little while until we get a conclusion.
Forever. I do not know what is going to happen next with me. I have no idea. I've done everything possible. I am putting a complaint in with pals eventually. I just wasn't ready to do it. And this is my first time proper talking about my full experience.
It's been a hell of a journey, Terry.
Yeah, and we really appreciate you sharing that with us. I'm sure our listeners will...
nothing's made up here. This is genuinely from me. Every part of my journey to where I am now is what I'm going through, and I'm still going through it. Even though I feel a lot better of myself, I'm still struggling, moving about and doing things. I can walk a little bit, but the pain, I've learned to manage the pain in my legs and the numbness, but they're there, and it has got a bit epidural. I can't. There were no problem there before the operation.
From what you've described to us, it seems pretty obvious, but obviously they're not going to say that, are they?
No, they're not. But if, your channel can make people aware of what I've been through, what to expect, what to try and avoid, log, document, I've got a good memory, but log and document every bit of your journey if you're ever going in for any, especially what have been major operation, log it all, get a little diary, because you never know, it could come in handy.
Well, thank you very much, Terry. As I said, it's been a hell of a journey. We wish you well for the future, and we hope you get the conclusion that you want, don't we, Patrick?
We certainly do, and we'll be watching your journey on TikTok and staying with you.
Yeah, and thank you very much for having me on. Because I'm in house a lot by myself and that now, it's so good to talk and get things off your chest. It makes me feel better. I've told someone, and more people are going to know the story.
And as good for mental health to talk, we're finding that with a lot of our guests that, and we've had cancer patients who've talked to us for the first time and not told anybody outside the family,
Yeah, I was like that. A bit of my journey, were a bit kept in because I've always been reserved. But when you go through something like I've been through, you've got to let it out. You've no choice.
You can't bottle it up. Well, thanks a lot, Terry.
Right. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on, and hopefully talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Lovely speaking with you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I have to say, Martin, that was a pretty uncensored story from Terry there. It's quite interesting to listen to and amazing what he's gone through.
Very detailed.
But we do have to say that all those views and comments that Terry made were his own and not those of Who's Tom and Dick. And we really appreciate his honesty in that interview.
And we wish him well for the future, of course, don't we?
Without a doubt. Very strong man.
So, well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you very much, guys. And I hope you enjoyed that one. And we'll be back next week, as usual, with something.
Let's hope our listeners don't go through a similar journey. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Who's Tom and Dick podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers and Patrick Mortimer. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite streaming platform. New episodes are available every Friday. Thanks for tuning in.